During Attorney General Jeff Sessions' testimony before the Senate Intelligence Committee, he pleaded for senatorial courtesy in his opening statements. I was your colleague in this body for 20 years, or at least some of you, and the suggestion that I participate in any collusion that I was aware of, or any collusion with the Russian government to hurt this country or to undermine the integrity of our democratic process is an appalling and detestable lie. Good morning, I'm Ed James, and this is Black Almanac. Senator Kamala Harris pressed harder than anyone else on the committee. Once she served as California's Attorney General for the past 6 years, and San Francisco's District Attorney for the 7 years before that. With the savvy of a seasoned prosecutor, the freshman Democratic peppered session with specific yes or no questions. It didn't take long for him to become exasperated when she asked if he had contacts with Russian businessmen last year. He said no. Then he began to clarify that. It's possible he met some at the Republican convention. Harris noticed that she didn't have much time and wanted to move quickly. Will you let me qualify it? If I don't qualify it, you'll accuse me of lying, Sessions shot back. So I need to be correct as best I can be. I'm not able to be rushed this fast. It makes me nervous. Political analyst Dr. Lawrence Miller joins the discourse. Dr. Miller, welcome back.
Thank you very much. Glad to be back.
Yes. You know, every time there's some kind of mass shooting in these United States,
yes,
everybody suddenly becomes angels. Mm-hmm. I love you, you love me, mm-hmm. Oh, how happy we will be.
Right.
But then give it a little time, and then they go back to talking silly. Mm-hmm. Senator Rand Paul's comments.
Yes.
What's this called?
Talking about Second Amendment solutions. Mm-hmm. You know, this recent shooting that took place in Alexandria, mm-hmm. Where a number of members of Congress were mm-hmm. shot and injured, people started talking, as you rightly put out there, that this is a terrible situation, mm-hmm. and we ought to change our dialogue in terms of how we discuss these issues. And because of this vitriolic language, mm-hmm. it's thought that people get their guns and they come out there and they go ahead and shoot people, and it's terrible. And then everybody says, oh, this is terrible, so let's, tap down the rhetoric.
You do better.
Yeah. So,
and maybe I'll do better.
Right. But, everybody's hands gets dirty in this,
Absolutely.
And the fact of the matter is, should we come together? Yes. But it shouldn't be something that you have to be pushed into. It should be a normal course of business. We have become a country where we're so divided that impurity is such an issue as it relates to the left or the right, that if you're not for me, you're against me. There's no compromise. Mm-hmm. And because of this and the position that people have taken, we get into the situation where people make a statement like Rand Paul made about Second Amendment solutions, mm-hmm. a tweet, and even the president mm-hmm. mentioned one of these things when he was campaigning in terms of Second Amendment solutions. And here we are again. This person happens to be on the left who had it in for Republicans. And we have another tragedy on our hands where, people have gotten injured and the shooter being killed. So mm-hmm. it's a very traumatic situation for the nation in terms of how we deal with these situations, because all too often in a church, in a movie theater, mm-hmm. You name the place, we've had shootings.
Well, and I remember the little Amish girls, mm-hmm. 10 of them were killed out in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
When a nutcase came through there. Mm-hmm. Then there was Newtown, Connecticut.
Exactly.
And we all said the same thing. We got to tone down the rhetoric.
And that's what happened with Gabby Gifford in Arizona and
Absolutely.
in Phoenix. So you're right. We should take more notice of this and do better going forward, revolving around the type of rhetoric that we use.
But have you noticed that usually when these situations occur, the group that's making the wildest statements is usually the one who's saying, we all got to do better.
Right, exactly.
President Trump's son, Donald Jr., wants to blame this shooting on the left and what the left is saying.
Right.
But he didn't understand his father.
Exactly.
Apparently.
Exactly, because think about it. There was this play in New York dealing with Julius Caesar, and the person looked like Donald Trump. Well, 5 years ago, the same play was being put on, and the person looked like Barack Obama.
Yeah.
So here it is, when we start talking about having credibility now about the kind of violence that's going on, and you mentioned about Donald Trump Jr. saying about the shooter having these left leanings and the reason why he shot him, and this play had some impact on him. The thing here is that if you don't have the ability to speak out when other people are in your own group are saying some of these things, why should we think that you have credibility now when there's somebody in your group that is getting shot? So, you know, you as I mentioned in this program before, you have to go ahead and be correct as far as wrong is wrong, period, and make it so that people understand that you won't tolerate this type of behavior, no matter who it is.
That was last Wednesday, and it just keeps on trailing on. And the senator from congressperson from Louisiana is in the hospital.
Yes.
And he may not make it.
Yeah. Well, that's a terrible thing.
And if he had not been at the ballpark, there would probably been more people killed.
Yes.
His presence at the ballpark, being in the leadership, he's number 3 in the House, meant that they send escorts with those people when they go into public.
Yes. Capitol Police.
Two Capitol Police.
Yes.
But
and if I may say about those 2 Capitol Police, David Bailey and Crystal Grinner, I'm sorry, they were heroes. Everybody knows the type of thing that they did in terms of putting themselves out on the line as far as the shooter is concerned. But what people don't know is that David is a graduate of North Carolina Central University, HBCU, and has been involved with the Capitol Police for many years. And so we're happy to have people like that who show that kind of courage under fire, being in the Capitol Police, taking care of the people who work there.
And when you think about that, they had handguns against a shooter with a long gun.
Exactly.
And who was out, and his range is infinitesimal, and their range, you have to come out there.
Yes.
You can't hide, and you have to come, and like you said, but they had the courage to come and do that. We're going to talk about Attorney General Sessions.
Well, you let me qualify it. If I don't qualify it, you'll accuse me of lying. So I need to be correct as best I can.
I do want you to be honest.
And I'm not able to be rushed this fast. It makes me nervous.
The young freshman senator
From California.
Who happens to be a black female,
Yes.
who just happens to be the former Attorney General of the state of California, who happens to be a former district attorney for San Francisco.
Yes.
When she was questioning Mr. Sessions, and she was asking the hard questions,
Right.
and she sat quietly while the Republicans were throwing the softball questions to him.
Yes.
But when she started asking the hard questions, they wanted to shut her down.
Exactly.
And why are you doing this?
Right. And he said, talking about Sessions now, that he felt nervous. Mm-hmm. Well, if you have nothing to hide and you've done nothing wrong, why should you feel nervous? Mm-hmm. You know, he couldn't recollect anything. I mean, except his name and who his wife was sitting in the audience.
Yeah, I think we may, well, in this case it was, I don't remember.
Right.
Next case, I racked my brain, but hard as I try, I don't remember that. Mm-hmm. Well, I might have said it, but I'm not sure.
Yes.
Anything to committing to what you said and perjuring yourself.
Exactly. And not only that, he talks as if the president had invoked executive privilege when he had not. So he could speak about whatever it is that the question that was presented to him, but he chose to hide behind that. As the Attorney General of the United States, he decided to hide behind that rather than speak the truth.
And then when it was pushed to ask, okay, the president has not invoked executive privilege. Tell us the legal reason, Mr. Attorney General,
yes,
that you can't talk to us. He said, well, you know. Sound like a little kid who's broken something. Daddy, you know. Well, you know. Yeah. No, just give us a reason. There must be some reasoning.
A policy, some written policy that speaks to the fact that you can't do this.
And then he finally says, well, basically, I want to protect the president.
Exactly.
Nobody's asking you not to protect the president. We're just asking you these questions.
Yeah. But that's not really his role necessarily, to protect the president. His role is to seek justice. His role is to adhere to the Constitution of the United States of America.
That they talk so much about.
Yeah, they talk so much about. You don't swear allegiance to Donald Trump. You swear allegiance to the Constitution of the United States.
I beg to differ with you. There was a cabinet meeting last week also. I don't know if you saw it.
Yes.
And maybe we'll put that up. Where the president is saying for the first time he has all of his various secretaries with him.
Right.
And I sat there and felt sorry for grown men kissing the ring.
Yes, grown men and women.
Yeah. And I guess they kissed the ring because it's close. but if it wasn't, they'd be kissing something else. And I don't know.
Yeah, it's amazing.
They just kept saying, Mr. President, thank you for giving me this opportunity to serve your agenda.
Right.
Mr. President, thank you for giving me a chance to work in your cabinet. Mr. President, thank you for letting me be here.
Yes.
What is this?
It was pathetic. It was so pathetic that Chuck Schumer, the minority leader of the Senate, had his staff sit around him, and they just mocked his, whole cabinet because of the way they did it. You're right; they were kissing the ring and any other part of his body to, ingratiate themselves more and more to him. But as I said, it's not about Donald Trump. It's about the people of the United States of America, and. If you believe that your role and responsibility is solely to enhance and pump up his ego, you're in the wrong business. You shouldn't be there.
And so before someone out there watching today says, why are they picking on General Sessions? Well, General Sessions has a history. He can't remember anything, yet let me tell you his record on civil rights, which he has a hostility to. In 1981, after being appointed U.S. Attorney by then President Ronald Reagan, he attracted national attention by prosecuting 3 civil rights workers for voter fraud. That case was widely viewed as baseless and malicious prosecution aimed at suppressing the black vote. And now he can officially suppress the black vote in his new role as Attorney General of the United States. And that's one of the places that blacks and other minorities have gone to as a court of last resort to try to get some help when they are being oppressed by others.
Yes, and what I say to that is that voting matters. You know, when Trump said, "What do we have to lose?" This is what you have to lose: your vote. Okay. What do you have to lose? Your loved one going to jail for an inordinate amount of time, maybe life imprisonment, because of smoking marijuana, or having possession of marijuana or any other drug. You know, the drug problem is so much prevalent in this country that over 52,000 people died last year from drug overdoses. The situation.
But you know now it's a health problem.
It's a health problem.
It's not a criminal problem.
Yeah, it's not a criminal problem anymore. But the thing here is what I'm saying is that the criminal justice reform that President Obama was working on, right? Sessions has shelved that, okay? And now people, instead of it really being a health problem, because I'd rather see a person who has an addiction in a facility where they are getting help in terms of treatment than in a prison where they're just being shoved in a cell.
Warehouse.
And warehouse. So they come out and commit the same crime all over again. So we need to take into consideration these different things when we go to the voting booth. Who are we voting for? Because when you end up with a person like Trump, you end up with another person like Sessions. When you vote for someone else, like say Obama, okay, you end up with an Eric Holder. That's a big difference.
Absolutely. You know, going back to Sessions, he has called the NAACP a communist organization. And they asked him about his involvement in the Ku Klux Klan. And he said, well, they're all right till I found out they smoked pot. And I don't like anybody who smokes pot.
It's crazy.
Isn't it comical?
It's comical and crazy. The thing here is, though, we got a very serious problem with the Russians interfering with our election. And that's the real reason why he was there, okay? Because he went ahead and fired James Comey, the FBI director, when he said that he would not be a part of anything that had to do with the Russia investigation. He recused himself. But he ended up firing the guy who's doing the investigation. So when you have that kind of situation where all these things are going on, where our electoral process is being circumvented by an outside force, of course we should go ahead and have him. And the president has said that he would come before the special counsel also, and he would give testimony as to what his intent was when he told Comey to let Michael Flynn go, right? That he's a good guy.
You know, it's also interesting in what kind of guy you'll have comparing Sessions to Eric Holder. Also during that testimony, you asked him, he was asked certain questions about Russia and the events and them meddling in the U.S. elections. And he said he didn't know anything about it. He was asked, well, what about the briefings that you get? He said he has never had a briefing.
Never had a briefing.
Can you believe that?
No. And the other thing, he tried to make it sound like he was at this third meeting. He had already told a tale about the first two meetings. Now he had this third meeting at the Mayflower Hotel. And he's making it seem as if, oh, I may have casually bumped into him. I may, talking about the Russian
There were a lot of people there.
There were a lot of people there.
Come on. This Southern folksy excuse is not enough.
No.
And if that's all you have to offer, he should do the nation a favor and step down.
And then you have this other situation where you have a special counsel, Robert Mueller, who the right has been talking about, well, maybe the president may fire him, okay? If that would have happened, I think this whole investigation would explode, okay? So I don't know. I don't think that but who knows with Donald Trump? I mean, he may do anything. But I think the main point about this is that they talked about the fact that Mueller may be investigating his obstruction, possible obstruction of this investigation. And who could ever blame him for doing that? He would not be doing his job if he did not look into that, because the president has made so many statements revolving around this investigation being phony, fake news, the fact that he spoke to the Russians and said, I got rid of the FBI director, and now it gets the Russia issue off of me, the cloud off of me.
And he's told that on national TV.
To Lester Holt.
To Lester Holt in an interview.
Yeah. So, I mean, it would be a dereliction of duty for Mueller not to look into it. So the president bashing the investigation is not good for the democratic process.
Now, folks, he didn't say the Democratic Party. He says not good for the democratic process.
Exactly. Two different things.
Yeah, and everybody should adhere to the democratic process.
Right.
No matter what party or no party that you're involved in.
Right.
God has a sense of humor.
Yes, he does.
On this past Wednesday, 71st birthday of President Trump,
Yes.
when he opened his Washington Post on his birthday, he didn't have to look at the horoscope to see what kind of day he was going to have.
Right.
Because there was a horror paragraph there that the special counsel was investigating him for possible obstruction of justice.
Yes.
And they say, meaning the writers of the Post, that they have 5 separate collaborations that led them to believe or know that he's being investigated. Now, are those 5 and people who happen to be in the know? Are those 5 different leaks? Are those 5 people who have been summoned to come?
Yes.
But nevertheless, and then he says, well, and trains his puppets, you know, his flacks, as they call the PR people in government, to say, you know, that's against the law. Somebody should be investigated. Well, someone is being investigated.
It's, you know, it's crazy. Here it is, 2 of his members of his staff, Dan Coates and Mike Rogers, were before the Senate Intelligence Committee looking into the Russia investigation. And both of them, just like we mentioned about Sessions, said that they couldn't speak to these issues on camera, okay? And it appears that some of the things that they have said in closed session give some concern. We'll see how that plays out in terms of Mueller's investigation, as it has any impact upon whether there is any collusion and obstruction.
You know, and an additional birthday gift that the president got, interesting, that some of those around him, his associates, are also being investigated by the special counsel about money laundering.
One more thing.
One more thing. Now, you say, what is that about? Well, his son, we've mentioned before on this program, his son-in-law has gone to a Russian bank that is on the bad list. There's a proper name for that.
Okay.
And he says he was going to the bank to talk about his holdings. The banker said he was going to the bank to talk about borrowing money. The president said he was there to talk about government business. Now, what business does a government should have with a bank that it is deemed to be completely out of order in terms of all regulation? A bank where one of its people was convicted of being a Russian spy and sentenced to prison in the U.S., just getting out.
Okay.
What has this government done, this administration, that's good? Now, because I'm like Mr. Sessions, I scratch my head and Lordy, I can't think of anything.
You know, in Watergate, it wasn't the president that went to jail. It was all his underlings that went to jail.
All the president's men.
All the president's men. So I think they should keep that in mind. The other thing here is that speaking about banking and finances, two states, the District of Columbia and the state of Maryland are suing the president based upon the emolument clause in the Constitution. And now members of Congress are suing the president individually for the same issue. We need to get to the bottom of this issue.
Well, there's the accord that everybody's accord, and then there's the Trump accord.
So it would appear.
So, Dr. Miller, until the next time.
Okay, thank you for having me on your show again.
And as always, have a great day, Suncoast.
I knew I could get myself out of this. I just needed some hope and some help.
I took the first step to recovery when I made the call.
If you're depressed, drinking, and using drugs, you may need help. And the Affordable Care Act guarantees coverage of substance abuse. Call the Addiction, Hope, and Helpline now for a free assessment.
I had problems just getting to sleep, drinking and using pills every night.
I feel like I'm losing control. I'm afraid I'll lose my job or even my family.
Are you losing hope? You can recover and get back on track. Call now for hope and help with proven, gentle recovery programs.
I never thought that I could be somebody who didn't drink and use drugs.
I have something to hold on to for strength. I'm in recovery, getting the help I need.
Call the Addiction, Hope, and Helpline now for a free assessment with someone who cares.
Call 1-800-764-8708. That's 1-800-764-8708.
Check out My Suncoast Dining on mysuncoast.com.